Our next speaker is Mr. Agustin Escardino-Malva. Agustin, I hope you're with us, and that there are no technical issues. All right, something's coming up. Agustin is Deputy Head of Renewable Energy Sources and leader in Fin EDP facility at the European Commission. Oh, I'm sorry. And I hope you will share with us your knowledge and deep insight about this blended financing mechanism in EIC. Oh, we cannot hear you. Oh, ouch, ouch. Maybe, Nadesh, how did you do that? Oh, no? How did you overcome all the technical issues? Agustin, maybe if you would unplug the earphones, and we cannot hear you still. Can you hear us? I wonder. Okay, good. We have it at least one way going. Still nothing. Wait. Nope. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Yes, we can see you. I have an idea. I will switch you to attendee and then reload you as a presenter. All right? All right. And now as a presenter. No. I still... tak. Dziękuję Pani Kingo. No cóż, dzisiaj mamy okay, we cannot hear you. We see you. Okay. Let me think about other solution. I will turn you to attendee and I will give you the wait, where are you? On. Okay. Agustin, you're as an attendee, you have enabled microphone and camera option. Could you try that? Okay. We see you. We cannot hear you. Nadano prawo, okay. Nadesh, did you try a different browser maybe? What was it? Was maybe the issue of the browser? No, okay. No, okay. Agustin, you're back as a presenter then. Oh my gosh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, excellent.
Woo!
Excellent. I did something different. So let's go to the first of all, good morning. Very happy to be
Yes.
here. You introduced me with my former title a couple of years ago.
Oh, I'm so
When I
sorry.
was don't worry. Just to explain, because some people could say, why is a head of renewable energy doing here in this presentation? Actually, for the past 2 years, I've been building the EIC Fund, which is the vehicle that has been created in order to make the investments of the EIC accelerator. So I'm conducting the meetings of the investment committee, and I was one of the, let's say, the fathers of the whole process and the whole structure of the EIC Fund. So I'm happy to be here with you and to explain a number of things. Now, I've taken note that because I was listening while working to the previous speaker, who was explained very well the EIC accelerator and many of the things which were there. So I'm not sure whether you have my presentation there, and if someone could help me to go ahead, or otherwise explain me how to do it.
Yes.
Because I sent it to Magdalena.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
loading it.
Could you help me if I indicate you to, or someone, to move the slides ahead? Or
I think you can do it with your right arrow.
I can do it. Okay, let me try one. Okay, excellent. So fine. So in that case, I will go very fast, because I think it's better that the time I have, if there are questions, I could take the opportunity to answer them, because many things. This is the name which appears here is one of my colleagues. I use presentation because this is the most updated we have. So the European Innovation Council. This has been already explained, but at the different, let's say, stages that are being supported through different parts of the EIC. So I'm not going to explain it. You have heard already about the Pathfinder, the Transition, and the Accelerator. The Accelerator has been already explained by the previous speaker, the companies we are looking for and what is the rationale of the Accelerator. I go very fast. Even this one, what could be the different financing. Let's say the financing instrument we are having is blended finance, but the blended finance, which could be sometimes with equity only or with a grant only, and sometimes which is what we call a grant first. But this has already been explained. So unless it is important to emphasize in one question, I will, sorry, because it's going very fast. The same thing in the blended finance has been already explained. There's when it has both components. It has a grant component, and there's a maximum that we are granting, and then an investment component. One question that one could ask: why a blended finance? Well, the idea is that the objective, as it has been explained, of the EIC director, is to de-risk these companies, these cases, in order to be able to allow the entry of subsequent investors, the capital raising of the company, in order to facilitate the scale up of this company. So through this combination, what we achieve is a higher grant, higher the risking of the company, and certainly in some cases the companies still need the grant component in order to finalize the latest stages of technology development prior to their deployment. But this has already been explained. Then it has already been explained that there's an open call and there are calls related to challenges. I'm trying to advance very fast because probably if there are questions, I would like to have them to elaborate on them. Evaluation has been explained very well. So the different stages, and the companies like the one of the previous speaker help the companies to prepare to present everything. Same thing related with to the four-step process. Okay, now the EIC Fund. So I'm part of the EIC Fund. The EIC Fund is an investment vehicle that we have created. It's an investment fund that we have set up. It's a venture capital fund under Luxembourg law. In which the European Commission at this stage is the only shareholder. It is not and may not be always the case, because it's an alternative investment fund that we have created that allows for the entry of other investors in the capital of the fund. But for the time being, the European Commission is the only shareholder, established in 2020 in order to be able to channeled the investment of the EIC accelerator into companies of the pilot. There was a pilot which took place under Horizon 2020, so it was the previous framework program. Now we are going into the Horizon Europe stage. It's the new framework program, and then we are in the process of adapting the structures that we have created, the knowledge that we have developed through the EIC pilot, and also the EIC Fund. If I go to the next slide, the mission is the mission. Actually, the mission of the EIC Fund is very easy: is to channel the investment component of the EIC accelerator. Of course, when looking at it from a higher level, is certainly the reason why the whole EIC accelerator introduced the possibility of an investment component. It was to fill a critical financing gap at the equity stage, or equity or quasi-equity, because we are using several instruments to be able to provide that bridging in order to facilitate the scaling up of the companies. There was a financing gap in Europe. There's still a financing gap. And what we are trying is to mobilize important amounts of risk finance in the form of equity or quasi-equity in order to be able to provide what was missing in the market. The objective that we are pursuing is certainly not to crowd out other potential investors. We are entering, and we have created this because the investors were not entering into these companies because of the high risk, being extremely innovative companies in sectors. So, but our objective is, through our entry and through the whole process of triggered by the risking and by the fact that we are going to invest in these companies, to crowd in other investors. So what we are seeking we are already entering with equity, not with that quasi-equity, is always to have a matching, as it has been referred to by the previous speaker. So to that, at the same time as we are entering, we catalyze the entry of other investors. Some of these investors they enter catalyzed by the very fact that we are going to enter. So is the trust and the reputation and the importance of the EIC Fund that is sends a very strong signal. It's a very important factor for the entry of these other investors. If we go to the next slide, the investment process. So this is specific for the investment component, but the beginning of it is common with what has been explained before. So once the whole process that has been explained by the previous speaker and perhaps others, but it was in Polish and I was not following very well. Once the selection has taken place, what will happen is that there will be two processes going in parallel. One relates to the grant component, and another one for the investment component. Well, the one of the investment component, basically, as soon as the EIC Fund, with all the different service providers and investment advisors around, so mainly the European Investment Bank, receives the list of companies, then first of all, the EIC Fund contacts the company. Step 2, step 3 starts a process of the overall due diligence. I mean, it involves financial and market due diligence, but it also involves compliance checks. So we check the compliance of the company, what they call know your customers process. We need to examine from a point of view of anti-money laundering, anti-terrorist financing, compliance with all the tax avoidance and sanctions, even regimes of the union, that there are no problems, etc. And then in some cases, when they take technology due diligence, additional one to the one undertaken at the level of the evaluation, simply because these are very complex technologies. They are new technologies, and sometimes the technology due diligence, say the technology analysis undertaken by the experts during the evaluation process is not sufficient in order to take a decision on these companies. Basically, the whole due diligence process allows a much more in-depth examination of the company. There is 4.4. The EIC Fund prepares an investment recommendation. This is prepared by the investment advisor, and then is presented as 0.5 that you can see here to the investment committee. This is the current structure. This structure is going to change for the new cases under Horizon Europe. Then the investment committee will present this. That's what happened in the pilot. They presented it to the board of directors, which would take a decision. And then, let's say, once the decision on the investment has been taken, starts the whole process of negotiation, is the 0.7, with the company, because there's a term sheet coming from the decision of the board, and then start a whole process of negotiation with the company. If the company accepts the term sheet, There's no negotiation. It's just we go directly to the preparation of the legal documents as point 8, so the investment agreement, modifications in the shareholders agreement, etc. Otherwise, under point 7, sometimes the companies would like to have specific terms or something, have some questions, some clarifications. Of course, within the framework of something that we have a more or less a sort of standardized approach, we can accommodate things, but there are a number of provisions that for us are important in all cases, including, for example, for the monitoring, representation in the board of the directors of the company via a full member or via an observer. This something will be examined. And then the last stage is the signature of the investment agreement. That's point 9. All this process, what we target is an average of 6 months. We were able in the last cases of the pilot to be extremely fast, to do it perhaps in 3 months, let's say 4 months. In Horizon Europe, we will target certainly in the most urgent cases, those cases in which there are already financing rounds being prepared, to be much faster and do it in 3-4 months. But all this obviously takes time because it's plenty of interactions with the company, examination at different stages of decision. So let's say we are fully aware of the financing needs of the companies, and we are trying every time to do it faster. Of course, it very much depends as well on the responsiveness of the companies, because when different elements of information are being asked and the company does not react either on the financial due diligence or, more important, even in the compliance, of course, it's not possible for us to advance at a faster speed. If I go to the next, the investment strategy, so that could define what is the position that the EIC Fund takes in the whole ecosystem of venture capital investment. So the EIC Fund invests certainly at an early stage. That is very clear. That's why the profile of these companies is high risk. But it covers a whole, let's say, range of maturity in terms of companies. We have very early, very early stage companies at seed stage. Others are startups, so they have already starting perhaps to prepare a Series A. We have even had companies which are in a real scale-up stage with preparing Series C, in which we have joined as a company. So it's a very wide range of companies, but always with the same sort of profile of early stage company in market creating disruptive technologies. And it has been already indicated that the range of equity that we can invest goes from 0.5 to 15 million in what is the first, the investment that takes place. Afterwards, there's a possibility of follow-on investments, but this is another matter. Of course, we are looking for promising teams. We'll do the monitoring afterwards. We are not positioning ourselves as an investor which is interested in the daily management of the company, but depending on the importance of our investment, of course, we have a responsibility as an investor requiring to be able to monitor effectively, and in some cases with a presence in the board of directors as full member, as it's mentioned in the next point. There's the possibility of follow-on investments that I've already mentioned. And the EIC Fund, by definition, because the EIC Accelerator, by definition, is what we call bottom-up, so it covers all sectors, all verticals. It's not that certainly we have calls that could be targeted, but the general call of the EIC Fund could cover all sectors and verticals, and in all EU countries and associated countries to Horizon Europe. Now, what defines most importantly the EIC Fund and the EIC Accelerator and the investment component of the EIC Accelerator is that we are going to provide patient capital. So we position ourselves as a patient investor, very interested in supporting the founders, but very interested as well in being able to catalyze the investment, the other investors into this sort of investors. When I say patient capital, what we are targeting is that an investment horizon that in average will be 7 years. Of course, it will depend on the evolution of the company. It could be some cases that the companies go very fast and our exit is calculated earlier. But But it could be even longer horizons. It could be even 15 years. So let's say we are there because we understand that precisely in terms of the investment horizon, there's a need for patient capital in Europe at this stage. And what is mentioned here in the last point, the fund, we target minority stakes. We are not interested in controlling the company. Certainly in some cases, because of reasons related to the strategic importance of the technologies targeted by those companies, we may seek some ways to be able to guide the company, which do not require necessarily that we increase that minority ownership and have a block in minority. There are other ways to do that via provisions in the shareholders agreement. But certainly our intention is to support the companies as much as we can, but not certainly to control the company on its daily management. If I go to the next slide, the due diligence basically is undertaking the market, the financial and market due diligence by the EIB as investment advisor of the EIC Fund, and covers all the different areas that venture capital companies do when they undertake due diligence of companies to invest them. So this is a very standard and market, which is risk assessment, compliance, KYC, as I mentioned. KYC stands for Know Your Customer, the product, technology, market, commercialization, business plan. Management is extremely important because many of these companies, some of the most important strengths are sometimes in their management and in their IP. So this is very important. The governance, but we help to improve the governance of the company. The capital structure, the cap table. Actually, if it's already not a good cap table, we help the company, try to help as much as we can, of course, to come up with a better structure. Sometimes it's part of our, I would say, DNA with our entry to incentivize more the owners and the key team with the employee stock option schemes, etc. There are many things that there are questions I can explain afterwards. Okay, so so I will stop here, and if there are any questions, I would be very happy to answer them. Thank you.
I'm turning on. Actually, there are two questions in the chat box. The first is, how long does the due diligence process take, approximately?
It depends. The problem is that all the many questions that you may ask me, it will depend. It will depend on what is found, because let me, for example, if I talk about the due diligence in general related to compliance, if there's nothing worrisome, it may be very fast. It could be a matter of a couple of weeks. Of course, if something is found, it requires iterations with the company. So
Yes.
questions are being asked. If the company is very responsive, it's fine. But in some cases, the company takes perhaps 2 weeks to reply. So it's difficult to say. Same thing related to the due diligence. If everything is clear, the responsiveness is fast, it could go fast. So it is not unreasonable to be able, once the process starts, to be able to channel an investment recommendation to the investment committee in 1 month. It is not impossible, or 1 month and a half, but of course it depends.
Right. Another question is listed here. I hope, just a minute. Here.
The definition of a small mid-cap. I suppose is that one. I don't have it on the top of my head. I would assume that this is the definition that the Commission uses in general. Is this the question you're referring to?
Yes.
But it is not specific to the EIC Fund. I'm not sure whether it's specific to the EIC as such, or is the one that it is in generally used. But let's say this has been an extension as compared to the pilot. In the pilot, we're only providing blended finance, so also the investment component to SMEs. The question is that it has been that it may be important for some mid-caps, again, extremely innovative in disruptive market-creating technology sectors or technologies with disruptive market-related technologies to be able to receive this support. But of course, what we have assumed is that that these companies have sufficient resources to finalize any research which could be pending or technology development which could be pending, and that they are more in the scale-up say stage. So their concern is to be able to scale up because there's no sufficient capital in Europe in the form of equity-based capital to be able to do that. So that's why for small mid caps, the possibility is only one of equity only. It's a blend, technically it's blended finance, but without the grant component.
Okay. It's fine for me. I don't see any more comments or questions. And I have maybe just, just maybe last question from my side is that what if because how do you evaluate the project? Because I'm talking from life science based companies point of view, that when life science companies are competing for venture funds with internet solutions or any IT solutions, of course, those term sheets and they look much worse, so to say, from financing institution point of view, because in life science the revenue takes much more time to get the money back, and also the risk is much higher.
Okay, no, it's a very good question. Of course, already every company is different. That's the first thing, but the sectors are different. In the investment committee, there's a combination of backgrounds and knowledge, and certainly depending on each sector, it is things are done, are evaluated by the investment committee in order to present a recommendation to the board in a different manner. So it is examined usually what the way in which we have been working so far, and I would assume that it would be similar in the future. We always appoint a case lead in the investment committee in order to be able to let me just, because I'm running out of battery, I wouldn't like to be cut. In order to be able to follow that. Now the case lead is always a representative from the investment committee who has already been investor in that area, in that sector, so knows well the case of biotech, medtech, renewable energy, clean tech technologies, etc. So they do the work together with the investment advisor, the EIB, and they have also, let's say, some experts per different area, and they present it in the context of what is that market. The context is so the context of the different markets is completely different, being the market of IT, if it's software, if it's hardware. So it's very well contextualized, and we receive a pipeline that has been already selected. So normally that pipeline should lead to an investment. The question is, first of all, to define the best investment instrument, and second, to detect if there's any issue that may prevent us from doing that investment. But normally the investment, so that means that if in total, if I remember well, we receive about, I don't know, 160 companies in the pipeline for the pilot, the investment in the end was about around 150. So there was a number of companies, very small number of companies in which there were very serious issues related to compliance.
Okay, I think that the battery of Agustin's computer died, unfortunately.